I call this meeting, this regular meeting on Monday, July 21st, 2025 at 7:01 p.m. I'll start with our land acknowledgement. The City of Albany recognized that we occupied the land originally protected by the Confederated villages of Lishan. We acknowledge the genocide that took place on these lands and must make strides to repay the moral debt that is owed to this indigenous people, specifically the Ohlone tribe. Thank you for the contributions which have transformed our community and will continue to bring forth growth and unity. City of Albany commit to sustaining ongoing relationship with the tribe and together build a better future for all that now make this their home. City Clerk, roll call.
Councilmember Hanson Romero.
Here.
Councilmember Jordan.
Here.
Councilmember Mickey.
Here.
Vice Mayor McQuay.
Here.
And Mayor Lopez.
Here. All right, looks like we got the whole party here tonight. There was no closed session. We'll move on to item number 4. We do have 2 proclamations this evening. We'll start with proclamation recognizing the inauguration of President Vincent Medina, to be read by Vice Mayor Peggy McQuaid. And Vincent, if you want, you may step up here.
Good evening. I'm going to just have a slight deviation here, and I want to say, especially to you, as I read this, my pronunciation is not going to be perfect or even probably good. Please accept this in the spirit which it's meant. That I'm trying, but I know I don't have it right. Okay. City of Albany Proclamation celebrating the inauguration of President Vincent Medina. Whereas the City of Albany is located within the East Bay Ohlone region of Uchin, and whereas the East Bay Ohlone region of Uchin is located within the sovereign territory of the Verona Band of Alameda County, the historic tribe of the East Bay, which was federally recognized until 1927, and whereas in 1971, Ohlone elders who were members of the Verona Band of Alameda County brought their community together to establish the Ohlone Indian tribe to reaffirm their inherent sovereignty here in the East Bay, including in the City of Albany. And whereas the Ohlone Indian tribe is the oldest contemporary tribe of the East Bay and has since its inception been a diligent force for the preservation and promotion of Ohlone culture, and whereas on April 13th, 2025, with the blessing of his elders and his entire community, Vincent Medina was inaugurated as the president of the Ohlone Indian tribe. And whereas President Vincent Medina is an East Bay Ohlone man, born and raised within his ancestral homeland, Haken, which encompasses the heart of the East Bay, and whereas founder of the cultural institution, Mak Amhan, and the internationally acclaimed Cafe Ohlone, and leader of the unprecedented Octoy initiative at the University of California, Berkeley, Vincent has consistently dedicated his life to the continuity and vitality of his beautiful and enduring East Bay Ohlone culture. And whereas his efforts have led to tremendous success with more on the horizon, including with the establishment of the Mak Warep Ohlone Land Conservancy, and whereas Vincent is a speaker and teacher of Chochenyo, the indigenous language of the East Bay, and whereas, as a thought leader engaged with science centers and museums across the Bay Area, Vincent is reshaping public discourse on the complexity of Ohlone knowledge, and whereas his vision and leadership are inextricably rooted in the oldest identity of the East Bay, and his work is conducted with the loving support of his partner, Louis Trevino, and the sincere blessing of his elders, and follows in the footsteps of his ancestors. And whereas Vincent's profound vision and genuine dedication continues to immeasurably enrich the entire Bay Area, now therefore be it proclaimed that the City of Albany recognizes the sovereignty of the Ohlone Indian tribe and celebrates the inauguration of President Vincent Medina and commits to meaningful collaboration with President Vincent Medina and the Ohlone Indian tribe. Dated July 21st, 2025, Robin Lopez, Mayor. Congratulations.
Thank you for that wonderful proclamation that's there. I'd like to start by saying, Horshetu hi hemmenya. Hello to you all. I'm very grateful to be here today with you all, to be able to be here with my family and my allies and my friends that are here as well, community, to be able to see a new way forward here with the City of Albany, to be able to see our culture, our Ohlone culture, the oldest traditions of the East Bay be represented. And also, with this new role comes great responsibility to ensure that I'm accountable to my elders, to make sure that I look to them for guidance, to ensure that the actions that are taken are in the benefit of my community, the East Bay Ohlone people, the Ohlone Indian tribe. I'd like to acknowledge my partner, Louis Trevino, my Auntie Stella, who's here, Uncle Jay, Rena Dorff, Peter, Deirdre Green, John, my cousin Christina right here. It's a really great feeling to be able to be here with so many beloved people. And Mayor Lopez, Vice Mayor McQuaid, thank you for your work to be able to work as partners with our tribal government to see, again, a new way forward where the oldest traditions of the East Bay are being represented here in Albany. I'm very proud to be able to have this role as president of the Ohlone Indian tribe. Again, the Ohlone Indian tribe is the oldest Ohlone tribe, directly descended from the Verona Band of Alameda County, the direct successor. Really, it's a continuity that comes together because the Ohlone Indian tribe was established by those who were part of the Verona Band of Alameda County, based in Sunol, but encompassing the whole of the East Bay. Our family has always been here in Holshemakwarep, the East Bay, every generation, from those beginning days of our creation to where we're at today in 2025, and surely where we'll be in the future as well. We've always been here with no disconnect and no break. And the culture has been carried on intergenerationally as well. I stand here today with thinking of my grandfather, Louis Medina, who passed 1 year from tomorrow. And my grandfather, he's somebody that always inspired me to carry on my culture, him and my grandmother, Bonnie. His mother, Mary Archuleta, was born into the Verona Band of Alameda County. This is not ancient history, but this is something that's extremely close to us. When the University of California, Berkeley erroneously declared our Ohlone people extinct in 1925 in an effort to seize land, our family directly lived through that experience. Our forebears, 2 years after the university erroneously declared our people extinct, we lost our federal recognition. However, instead of giving up, those before us, our forebears, worked hard to ensure that we stayed safe here in our home and that the culture would be protected. I always want to give credit where credit is due, which is to the generations that come before me, that allow me to be here today, to be able to wake up every day where my family has always woken up, to be able to speak my language, practice our traditional culture, wake up surrounded by the community. Through this work, we want the public to understand that this culture, it's a beautiful, dignified culture, and to associate us Ohlones never with losses and defeats and solely through colonization, but to associate us with the big concepts of victories and triumphs. Because the fact that we're here today in our home, the East Bay, that's a victory. The fact that our culture has been carried on, that's a triumph right there. And it weighs heavy on me as a beautiful responsibility to make sure that I'm accountable again to those generations before that have always cared, loved our culture, and always carried that to the next generation. Through this work with the City of Albany, I'm looking forward to be able to engage with the tribal government, a government relationship with the city here, to be able to engage, lift up the truth of our East Bay Ohlone identity, and also to be able to cement the truth about the fact that we're here today and that we'll be here tomorrow as well, working for positive growth as allies, as friends, and as partners. In Chochenyo language, we say Holshe Maknunu, our culture is beautiful. Tuye Maksuyakma, our people are strong. Makinrote Nomo, Hoshemakwarep Hementuhi. We've been here in the East Bay all along. Aiye makinrote sin no mohushish tak aiye. And we'll be here tomorrow also. Thank you, and let's work for a new way forward here together.
Thank you very much, President Vincent Medina. Yes. I was going to ask if you would like a photo with all of the council. Yes. All right.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Great.
Again, thank you, Vice Mayor McQuaid and President Vincent Medina. We'll move on to our next item on ceremonial matters. Oh, yes.
Are you taking questions on the proclamation? Can you take questions on the proclamation?
Questions? Are we allowed to take questions?
Yeah, you can take a public comment.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you for honoring Mr. Medina, whose work speaks for itself and deserves every accolade. And thank you to Mr. Medina for using the words accountability and continuity. So I just have a couple of questions. At the very end of this resolution, there are words that say, recognize the sovereignty of, referring directly to the Ohlone Tribe, Inc., an organization founded in 1971. And then there's the meaningful collaboration commitment, which is also very important. These appear to be policy statements. And so one question I have is whether it is normal and appropriate for the city to make policy decisions in the context of a proclamation. And then just noticing that it's a policy decision that also represents a policy shift.
That concludes comment. Do we have any additional comments or questions from the public?
So maybe I could ask the second question?
I'm sorry, you're at time. And I'll defer to city staff if there's any response to that. All right, not seeing any response. We will move on to item 4-2, proclamation for National Breastfeeding Month, to be read by Councilmember Preston Jordan and received by Ruth Konoff.
Thanks for being here. In recognition of National Breastfeeding Month, August 2025, whereas human milk feeding is widely recognized as the biological norm for infant and young child feeding and a proven primary prevention strategy that builds a foundation for lifelong health and wellness. Whereas the American Academy of Pediatrics and the World Health Organization recommend exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months of life, with continued breastfeeding for 2 years or beyond as mutually desired by the mother and child. And whereas the consistent and well-documented health, economic, and environmental benefits of human milk feeding show that this is an investment that will continue to produce measurable dividends for families, employers, the government, and the community. And whereas many families face barriers to achieving their infant feeding intentions due to long-standing policy gaps and underfunding of public health initiatives that address the needs of lactating parents and the providers that serve them, which disproportionately affect Black, Indigenous, and people of color populations, resulting in reduced breastfeeding rates and an associated increase in risk for a variety of negative health outcomes. And whereas protecting and supporting human milk feeding is essential to ensuring infant nutrition security and immunologic protection for Albany's youngest people, and whereas National Breastfeeding Month and World Breastfeeding Week provide important opportunities to increase awareness of and address barriers to human milk feeding faced by families wherever they live, learn, work, play, and worship. Now therefore be it resolved that the Albany City Council does hereby proclaim August as Breastfeeding Chest Feeding Month, supporting the goals of National Breastfeeding Month, World Breastfeeding Week, National WIC Breastfeeding Week, Indigenous Milk Medicine Week, Asian American Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander Breastfeeding Week, Black Breastfeeding Week, Workplace Lactation Week, Latinx Breastfeeding Week, and supports policies and funding to ensure that all pregnant and postpartum people, families, and caregivers can access a full range of appropriate support from healthcare institutions, insurers, employers, early care and education providers, researchers, and government entities. Signed, Mayor Lopez. Thank you again.
Thank you for that beautiful reading. I have just a very short statement. First, I want to say I feel extremely fortunate to be on the same agenda with the previous proclamation. That was really beautiful to be present for. So, Mayor Lopez, Vice Mayor McQuaid, council members and staff, as an active member of the Alameda County Breastfeeding Coalition, I want to thank you for this proclamation, which brings attention to the importance of breastfeeding, chest feeding, human milk feeding for our community. The substantial benefits to the health of both the child and the lactating parent are widely recognized. The vast majority of expectant parents in our community plan to breastfeed. Still, families continue to encounter barriers to meeting those infant feeding intentions, including challenges accessing appropriate and legally mandated lactation accommodations at work and at school, difficulty finding supportive, informed childcare for their children, feeling judged by others and unwelcome when they just need to feed their baby while out in public, in shops, in restaurants, on the bus. Even lack of support from their healthcare providers, friends, and family members. Every year, in addition to Breastfeeding Month that the proclamation addresses, we celebrate World Breastfeeding Week, the first week in August. The theme this year for World Breastfeeding Week is creating sustainable support systems. Tonight's declaration of August as National Breastfeeding Month in Albany represents one opportunity to promote, protect, and support breastfeeding, chest feeding, and human milk feeding for the Albany community. And finally, I just want to invite everyone here to celebrate that week at the WIC being held by the City of Berkeley WIC on August 1st. You don't need to be a WIC participant. You don't need to live in Berkeley to attend. And I'll probably just leave a couple of flyers, if that's okay, on the back there if people want more information. And thank you again for supporting this important proclamation.
Thank you, and I just also want to acknowledge, thank you for holding me accountable back last year during Albany Rollers and Strollers Clean Air Day event and making sure that this was on our radar.
And thank you for being so responsive when I asked you, and you said, well, here's what you need to do to get me on board next year. Contact me by this date. So that was on
We got the proclamation queen on board. She got you. And then, would you like a picture with council? Yeah. Okay, that concludes our ceremonial matters. We will now move on to item number 5, City Manager's Report. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Reminder, August 5th, right around the corner, is National Night Out in Albany and many communities in the area. We are thrilled to report that we currently have 35 blocks that have written in and requested a block party. As you all know, this is a loved event in our community. It includes block parties throughout the city, neighbors getting to know one another, or neighbors that have already known one another coming to celebrate together. Also, our police department is the lead organizer of this event. They come out, full staff, including city staff partnering with our police department, and of course, special guests from the city council to these block parties. Really just a great community night. So if you haven't registered for a block party and you know your street would enjoy one, there's still time to sign up. Please check our website for additional details on how to sign up. And the short link for that is albanyca.gov/National Night Out. An update on the Buchanan Street repair project. I had announced that it would have likely already been underway. Unfortunately, there were some delays unforeseen with the other project that the contractor was dealing with in another agency. As such, we have an update for that work. It will be Friday, August 1st. This will include the East Shore Highway at Target entrance, and also Saturday, August 2nd, Buchanan Avenue and Marin Avenue between Pierce Street and San Pablo Avenue. Also, as a reminder, as always, please visit our website, albanyca.gov/projects, as that is regularly updated with project updates. We will have another mini community expo, this time at our senior center on August 7th from 12 to 3 p.m., featuring a variety of local resources and services specific for Albany's older adults and the broader community. We'll have a number of local nonprofits to share information and connect with our attendees, and there's also a free lunch provided as part of that event. A reminder that our concerts in the park, our annual events, will return this August. There will be 3 total concerts. The series starts on August 13th and wrapping up on the 27th. This is a free event at Memorial Park from 6 to 7:30 p.m. And believe it or not, school starts very soon, early August, right around the corner. We have a friendship after-school program that has been a real helpful asset for parents with children in the age group for the Friendship Club, primarily elementary students. Please take a look at that opportunity should after-school care be of interest, and that information is also on our website. We have 2 locations, both at Ocean View Park and Memorial Park for this program. A upcoming cleanup day, Friends of Albany Parks, will occur on Saturday, August 23rd, 9 to noon at Memorial Park in the Edible Garden. This is a unique opportunity for hands-on cleanup work and engaging with other individuals interested in that park area. So another opportunity to get involved and make a difference. And finally, an update from an outside agency, an e-bike instant rebate program. Ava Bike Electric is providing instant rebates ranging from $400 to $1,500 on new e-bikes. Applicants will be entered into random drawings for a chance to receive a rebate. And the drawings happen through the monthly through September 2026. The website to submit an application is avaenergy.org/bike-electric to learn more about it and complete the application. And finally, just a note on our agenda this evening, Mayor. Staff will be requesting we pull item 10.1, the street tree management plan, due to the need for some additional fine-tuning of that work in advance of council review and approval.
Thank you, City Manager. Do we have any questions from folks on council? Not seeing any. Do we have any questions from members of the public?
Do have one hand raised.
Hello? Are you on item 11?
No, we are on the
I was-
City Manager's report right now.
Oh, I'm sorry, somebody said to unmute me, so that's why. I'm here for item 11 on the land acknowledgement.
Okay, yeah, we'll be on that item later this evening.
If you could wait till item 11 is being discussed to raise your hand. Thank you.
All right, not seeing any comments from the public on the city manager report. We will now move to good of the city, public comment. This is for persons desiring to address city council on items that are not on the agenda. Please note that city policy limits each speaker to 3 minutes, and that items brought up during good of the city public comment cannot be addressed that they're not agendized. City Clerk?
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. My name is Ryan Lau, External Affairs Representative at AC Transit. After 2 years of reviewing and updating our bus service network with robust public participation, we are all set to launch the new realigned service changes August 10th. As a reminder, this is in response to changes to how people are moving around the region in the post-pandemic era with hybrid work schedules and remote work. While still working within a constrained budget, we have lower revenues in conjunction with increased costs. So that's. We also balanced all of our decision-making against 3 guiding principles: reliability, equity, and frequency, while also ensuring that we have the appropriate amount of workforce to actually deliver that service, with particular respect to the areas of, communities of low income and transit dependent. So right now we have all of our information live on the website. That's kind of our central hub of all of that information. We have route profile schedules and the like. We also will have a variety of information on board via car cards. We'll have bus ads. We have brochures on board as well. We'll also be doing a push out at BART stations, and also digital advertising through e-news, social, and the like. You've probably, your emails are probably clogged with my emails, so I apologize. We'll also have ambassadors out in the field, making sure our riders are aware of the changes. I actually have a shift tomorrow morning. And we also just ask that our riding public are patient with us. We have 1,500 stops that we have to put information out actually at the stop, so it's going to take a little bit of time. So again, actransit.org/realign, and appreciate your help.
Thank you for your comment.
Good evening. I am Dr. Stephen Alpert. The City of Albany follows the minimum state mandate, notifying only those within 300 feet of new construction, regardless of project size, with postcards mailed 10 days before a first planning and zoning hearing. I and over a dozen individuals have requested the council consider expanding public notice beyond 300 feet, as enacted by other California municipalities. To date, the council has refused to address this issue. At the June 2nd meeting, Councilman Jordan read portions of a letter from YIMBY, as in Yes in My Backyard law firm, citing California Code 65008 as prohibiting cities from enacting varied public notice for different sized projects, asserting that doing so would violate both California and federal Fair Housing Acts. In that letter, Attorney Jack Farrell asserted, public notice requirements must remain the same for all residential projects, regardless of type or location. However, the issue of varied distance for different sized projects is not settled. I met with Attorney Farrell on June 23rd and reviewed my conversations with Amanda Landry, principal planner for the city of Burbank. Burbank has varied public notice depending specifically on project size, regardless of the type of project. 1,000 feet notice is required for all construction, with additional notice beyond 300 feet, beyond 1,000 feet, for large-scale projects in 3 defined areas. The city of Irvine alerts all property owners within 500 feet of new construction. Notice is mailed 15 days before the first hearing. Additionally, if a new residence structure is near a business using hazardous chemicals, notice is expanded to 1,000 feet. These examples indicate that a uniform alert for all construction, regardless of project size or for residential use, may not be as clear-cut as was asserted. Albany city officials received the ordinances from Burbank and Irvine documenting what I just reviewed. Moreover, many cities require that signs be posted at project sites detailing the proposed new construction. As an example, I forward the regulations for sign postage for Berkeley. For projects more than 2 stories, Berkeley requires posting 4x4 signs on the site prior to the application for new construction. Let's assume, as Councilman Jordan and YIMBY law assert, that uniform noticing distance may be required. Even then, there is no reason whatsoever preventing Albany from expanding public notice beyond the 300 feet minimum notice. Increased cost was offered as a reason preventing expanded notice. Only 73 properties were alerted about the 5-story project at 1600 Solano, with a mailing cost of $45. Extrapolating to 500 feet, the mailing cost would be $126, and for 1,000 feet, $515. Hardly much of a burden for the city or the applicant. Celeste will continue.
Thank you for your comment.
Good evening. I am Dr. Celeste Marks. There's, as we have said, no legal reason why Albany cannot expand notification for new construction beyond 300 feet. Albany adheres to absolute minimum public notice, including not posting a sign at the construction site, whereas Section A4 of California Code 65091, noticing procedures, details mailing of notices 10 days prior to a hearing to properties within 300 feet. Section 5C reads, in addition to the notice required in this section, a local agency may give notice of the hearing in any other matter it deems necessary or desirable. Alerting those only within 300 feet limits public discourse, allowing the Planning and Zoning Commission to propose and the council to push through new projects, no matter how inappropriate, with minimal awareness and input from the public. Such was the case for the oversized 5-story modern box proposed for 1600 Solano Avenue. As is clearly evident, the approved plan for 1600 Solano is not functionally appropriate nor harmonious with its surroundings, in total violation of Albany's planning and zoning mission statement shown here. More than a dozen individuals have requested that Albany consider wider notification for proposed new construction, perplexed by the council's unjustified, to our eyes, minimal public notice. The council has run out of excuses for not addressing this issue. The unanswered question remains, why does the council refuse to address 300-foot notification? What is the actual underlying issue? The Brown Act limits public comment on this issue to 3 minutes and equally limits council members' responses. Instead of just exchanging brief comments, the issue of 300-foot notification should be submitted as a meeting agenda item to extend for extended, in-depth public debate we deserve. Albany deserves better than the absolute minimum. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Hi, my name's Tom Steinmack. I've seen and talked with several of you in the past. I'm here to support Dr. Alpert's request for the study, at least, of setback distances for construction and new construction. Regarding my background, and I've said this before, I've lived in Albany for 40-plus years. I'm a state licensed civil and geotechnical engineer, and until recently had maintained a small consulting business here in Albany for more than 20 years. Again, regarding Dr. Alpert's presentation today, me personally, I found it very polite and very clear. He presented facts that he had gathered, and I think it clearly shows that this is not a clear issue to certainly the council and to many of the citizens. And I think that's important to keep in mind. The merits of what he was requesting were, I thought, very well presented tonight. Again, regarding the 300-foot distance, that's not a very big distance, as I've mentioned before. It's the distance from Ventura to Tulare, I live on Tulare, is 300 feet. That's one block. That's not very far for a major structure. And I think you're probably all aware of that. For major projects, I think it's reasonable to let citizens be aware of major projects. It's not difficult, again, as was explained tonight. And again, I thought that was a very good presentation, very, very clear and very polite. And truthfully, well, as a consultant in the city, I've talked with a lot of different people. I've met young ones that had just bought a house, old ones that can barely survive in their house, and ones in between. And so there's quite a variety of people there that deserve to be informed of the construction that's going on. Truthfully, I'm baffled why at least putting this to a committee for study, it hasn't occurred. It seems black and white to me. That's the only black and white issue here. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
This is comment for good of the city, so if you're not speaking for good of the city, please lower your hand. Thank you.
Hello? Can you hear me okay?
Go ahead.
Okay, great, thank you. Yeah, my name's Jean Wu. Once again, I'm a longtime resident of the City of Albany, and I'm concerned about trying to get a resilience hub in the City of Albany, specifically at the Albany Community Center. I would like to urge the City Council to consider asking staff to work with the AVA Community Energy representatives that have offered to do an evaluation and technical assistance survey, and that would be at the expense of AVA Community Energy to turn the ACC into a resilience hub and potentially to be eligible for Community Resilience Hub funding, which might happen sometime later in the year or early next year. The other thing that's interesting is when we spoke about this with the Climate Action Committee on the 16th, Michelle Plaus was suggesting there might be a way to look at incorporating the Resilience Hub concept into the capital improvements budget, which is a 5-year budget. And so then some of the things that would need to be done would be actually part of the ordinary plan for capital improvements, and some might be something that would be covered specifically by either AVA Community Energy or another grant program or other funding. For instance, potentially the DD funding that was passed in 2021. The other thing that came up was Marilyn Jawson's suggestion that we have more information spread widely in the community and get more information from the community about what they would like. And I think that's a concept that could be a poll of the community or an offer for people who are interested in contributing to join some kind of community advisory committee. And we actually had another resident who just recently retired from 20 years in the solar industry who offered to help with this plan. So I think we have resources in the City of Albany, and I think we should use them, and I think we should use them in a timely manner and not wait 5 more years, because we never know when there will be a major disaster or other issue that we really need to have a resilience hub here. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment.
Good evening, Council. Thank you. This is Lucinda Young. I am a longtime Albany resident and a member of the Albany Climate Action Coalition. I would second the previous speaker in urging the council to look at a possible resilience hub at the Albany Community Center to explore that further. I want to express my concern tonight about what I see as the city's not prioritizing climate action as required by the Climate Emergency Declaration, which I remind you was unanimously passed last year. And also not giving due deference to its citizen advisory body on climate, the Climate Action Committee. And that committee has a lot of expertise, and the members devote a lot of time and effort to the committee's work. This concern came up based on last council meeting. I questioned the removal of public EV chargers from the CIP since the chargers had been included in the previous CIP. The Climate Action Committee has had a subcommittee who's devoted a whole lot of time to researching, investigating public EV chargers. And that full committee sent a recommendation to City Council specifically recommending that public EV chargers be included in the new CIP. So it concerns me that staff decided to reject that recommendation with no explanation. Our Public Works Director said last meeting that the public EV chargers were removed because they want to prioritize electrification of the city fleet. And I'm just wondering, well, how did staff come to that conclusion? What consideration, if any, did they give to all the work that the CAC had done on this issue? And the previous CIP had both fleet electrification and public EV chargers. So I'm just wondering if a choice had to be made between them. Was there an analysis done of the comparative greenhouse gas emission reductions? The Public Works Director also had said he attended a Transportation Committee meeting and a Parks and Rec meeting to get feedback on the CIP. He didn't mention that he attended a Climate Action Committee meeting, and I go to all those meetings, and he never attended a meeting and asked for feedback. And I think this is especially troubling since the Climate Emergency Declaration calls for all decisions to be made through the lens of climate action, through the lens of climate change. Instead, and I understand staff is very, very busy. They have a lot on their plate, but it just seems too often like staff is pursuing a business as usual approach instead of advancing the change that we need for a better Albany, for a better world, and to comply with our CAP. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Marilyn, go ahead.
Oh,
Lawrence?
I'm sorry. Yeah, this is Marilyn Jossens, and I'm a longtime Albany resident, and I just wanted to support the comment by Jean Wu. And I also wanted to add to that there are other people in the community already that are supporting what she's asserting in her comments and interested in becoming involved in working on this issue. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Hi, this is Catherine, also an ACAC member. Expressing my concern about the lack of EV charging in the capital improvement plan. I know the utility tax that we have with Measure DD funds is supposed to fund climate action content, and because it is a general tax, I think we can continually use more transparency on how that money is spent to make sure that it is actually spent 1/3 as voters intended on climate projects and not on general fund items as needed. I know our budget is balanced this year, which I took a lot of work from the staff, so good work on that, but want to make sure that we're actually spending the money that we can spend and should spend on climate action. A number of ACAC volunteers have requested moving up the date for climate net zero work from 2045 to sooner. And I know that would take additional budget or additional work. So I'd like to know more about how we can make sure that we're getting the funding we need to do what's needed to help make our city the cleanest and greenest it can be and contribute to important climate goals. I know the city used to have someone dedicated full-time to climate work, but that position is no longer there. So I know we're having a new community development director soon. We'd love to talk to them about how we can accelerate our climate goals and the funding available for that work. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you. My name is Cheryl Davila. I'm a former council member in the city of Berkeley. Hi, Vice Mayor Peggy Yeh. I hope you remember who I am. But anyway, I wasn't planning on speaking on this, but I just want to support breastfeeding and lactation and bring also attention to that today, sadly, in Palestine, infants are dying from starvation because their mothers are starving and they don't have formula or anything, food. And I just wanted to bring attention to that. As well as I do support resilience hubs. They're very important in the climate for any type of catastrophe, really. And Berkeley was the third city in the world to declare climate emergency. I'm glad Albany did one, as the person just said last year. I thought it was before that, but anyway, that's good. But you do need to take climate action. And yeah, EV chargers in Albany would be nice because I do my laundry in Albany. I come to Albany quite a bit to do other things as well. And there's nowhere to charge in Albany except for under the freeway, which is kind of scary. And I don't know if you have to pay to get into that or pay to park or whatever, but not somewhere you would want to sit in your car and charge. So you definitely need EV chargers, more of them in there. And you also need to pay attention to the climate and do more climate action because it's, like I always say, we're in a heap of trouble and the heap keeps getting larger and larger. And now with 47, fascism and all that, we have to be ready. And our community needs to come together, all of our communities, come together and to unite in solidarity for all the different struggles that are going on in the world and here in our hometowns. Homelessness, housing, and then back over in Palestine, we have to free Palestine and free us all from all the isms that keep us apart. So thank you for your work. Thank you for your time. Have a blessed day. but I'll be back for items 11 and 12. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. All right, that concludes public comment. We will move on to item number 7, consent calendar. Consent calendar items are considered to be routine and can be enacted by one motion unless any council member or member of the public wishes to pull an item. Do any members on council wish to pull an item? All right. Do any members of the public wish to pull an item?
Yeah, hi, I'd like to pull 7-7, please.
7-7. All right.
Thanks.
All right, go ahead.
Amy, go ahead with your comment.
Oh, you're not going to make a presentation or anything about it, though, first? Don't you kind of have to do that, or no? Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's Dinner with Albany. When I saw that street closure on Dinner with Albany was up on the consent calendar, I was super excited. It was really, Dinner with Albany has been one of the best events in Albany for, since 2008. I attended every single one. It was the place to be, and, just enjoying the meals from the restaurants al fresco and bringing our own potluck, and this great energy and fabulous excitement. And now that the restaurants have parklets, I thought, fantastic. Then they can seamlessly join the festivities. You sit at a parklet, you're with your friends at a table on the street, be a super giant night-long party and really benefit all our local businesses and local economy. And then I looked at the details and saw that the closure was on Portland Avenue. And I was just confused and dismayed. I just don't feel like it's going to have the economic impact that the former one had. I don't understand how it's really going to help that many restaurants. They'll certainly have less business than under the previous model. And then you're also looking at the environmental impact, as some of the previous speakers in public comment mentioned. I mean, really, sustainability and environmental and global and climate change are really crucial to what we do, and people are going to certainly drive with food to Dinner with Albany. It's just kind of inevitable that a lot of people will get in their cars and not walk when the restaurants are right on the block that you're eating in. Dinner with Albany is happening in, then you just get it and you walk right to your table. And there's also going to be a lot more waste. There's going to be plastic. There's going to be unrecyclable items. There's going to be a lot of to-go kind of waste that really we didn't have, because since we were right on the block, like, we'd take the tureens and the plates and bring them from the restaurant to our table and say, hey, we'll return them later. And so I just think it's going to have a negative economic impact and a negative environmental impact. And I sent an email to a couple friends just letting them know what I was thinking, and they sent you letters as well. I think that a lot of people in Albany, and certainly the restaurants, would agree that we should look at the old model and bring it back to Solano Avenue for our economy's sake and our environment's sake. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. And before I defer response to city staff, I'll just share the item that's on the consent calendar is specific to the closure of that 2-block segment, not necessarily changing the idea of changing the location. And secondly, to change the location would require a tremendous lift from city staff, but also quite the financial investment, which unfortunately would mean that if we were to make any changes at this time, would certainly mean that we wouldn't be able to have any form of Dinner with Albany this year. At least that's my understanding. But I will defer to city staff if there's any.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate your representation of the issue, and that's exactly it. noted on your agenda, the event is October 4th. Granted, we're in July, but we're in late July. The event, as intended, has been planned for several months and is designated for this particular location. Again, not necessarily specific to your agenda, but first and foremost for public safety and the concerns of street closures and how our world has evolved since previous iterations of Dinner with Albany. I'd encourage the council to consider whether this event makes sense. First and foremost, again, I'd like to underscore that this is intended to be a community network event and community gathering, and I can't think of how a community park detracts from that primary goal.
Thank you very much, City Manager. Do we have any comments from City Council members?
Yeah, I really want to appreciate staff's efforts. I mean, this is bringing back something that we all as a community really enjoyed in the past, but really understanding the balancing of the budget and time, but probably just as importantly, the safety issues. I think we all have seen the national headlines of issues that have happened in big events that happen on streets, and recognize that in the past we've been made aware of just what it costs to provide security for things like the Solano Stroll. And in many ways, this is very similar in the sense of needing extra security, extra barricades. And I think from the environmental side, I mean, if you look at things like when we had the July 4th event, there were many families that arrived with strollers in which to bring food. They could bring food. I brought a wagon primarily because I didn't want to have to carry all my stuff. And so I think there are ways that families can adjust and bring food with them. I hope that many of them choose to bring food from our local restaurants, both on Solano Avenue and on San Pablo Avenue. And I really look forward to an evening with everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, if I may, I was just curious, are the dinner tables planned to be set up in the park or on the street, or what's the relationship between the street?
Sure, yeah, that is still evolving. Depending on the number of responses, we have contingency plans for all over the park, really, and expect a significant turnout. The event, pending council approval of the street closure, dictating the event is going forward, will be in our next recreation and community events guide. To your question specifically on tables, yes, they will be on both sides of the lawn area, and then also potentially most intention is Portland Avenue. Granted that the street is unique in some ways, as many of Albany's streets are, so we are testing a few scenarios to make sure those tables are properly set for ease of access and enjoyment.
Ask one other question. Is there a plan to, it's probably lease, rent, it's a service, I imagine, the anti-motorist barricades, the modern anti-motorist barricades to basically lift the car up if somebody tries to drive into the event?
Specifically, we use the Meridian barricades for our events, which is the trusted, if you will, street closure device throughout the county. We will borrow some, hopefully, from Alameda County themselves, and also working with other partners to borrow as many as we can to reduce costs. We may need to rent some as well. It really depends on competing events and how we retain those going forward, but all of that work is underway.
Thank you very much.
I think it's a great idea. I think people are really looking forward to it and not wanting to get into the weeds right now. I will move consent.
I will second.
Thank you. City Clerk.
Councilmember Jordan?
Yes.
Councilmember Mickey?
Yes.
Vice Mayor McQuaid?
Yes.
Mayor Lopez?
Yep.
And Councilmember Hanson Romero?
Yes.
The motion carries.
All right, thank you very much. And as stated earlier during the city manager report, we will not be having item 10-1 this evening. It has been pulled, so we will move past unfinished business and go into new business. We will start with item 11-1. I know there may be some folks here for another item, but I just want to make it absolutely clear. Right now, we are starting with item 11-1, update to the heat pump rebate program. City staff.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, City Council members. I'm Michelle Plaus, the Community Development Analyst. And today I'll be presenting a recommendation both from the Climate Action Committee and staff for updates to the heat pump rebate program. I'll start off with a little bit of background about the program. This was created in March of 2022 with $40,000 in funding. With the idea to provide rebates to Albany building owners for installing heat pump HVAC systems as part of our work to try to electrify the buildings in Albany and reduce the carbon emissions coming from buildings, which are a very large percentage of the overall emissions in the city. The program launched in June of 2022. And in February of 2023, we returned to council to request additional funding. And the council granted $65,000 of additional funding and also created a dual structure to the rebate, one standard rebate amount and then also a moderate or low income level amount. That was further adjusted in February of 2024, where we created a low and moderate income level, so a 3-tier structure, and increased the amounts for those lower income level households, and again, added funding. So that's the last time that we've discussed the program, was February 2024. It's been running since then and has been very successful. Right now, I won't go through all the numbers, but those are the rebate amounts that we have currently. There's separate amounts for ducted heat pumps and ductless heat pumps because the cost for ducted heat pumps is a fair bit more. And then there's also a bonus for electrical panel upgrades if they're going along with a heat pump installation. The eligibility is very broad. It's any building in Albany. There's just a limit of 1 rebate per housing unit. Any contractor, as long as they're licensed and they're receiving a permit through our permitting system, and as long as they apply for the rebate within 4 months of receiving that permit. So it's a very broad system. I've been told it's very easy to apply, and it's pretty streamlined compared to a lot of other rebate programs. So it's been very appreciated by the community. We've provided over 100 rebates so far, 10 of those to low-income households and 8 to moderate-income households. So there have been some changes in the last about over 3 years now since the program was initially created. And in part because I think the program has been successful and popularity of heat pumps in general has grown quite a bit in that time. Just last year, 75% of all of the HVAC permits that were pulled in Albany were for heat pumps, just 25% for furnaces. So that's a very large growth from just a few years ago. I have the chart on the right here, which shows a moving average of those permits because we're so small, there's a lot of up and down in the chart, as you can imagine, but you can see there's a steady growth going on. We've also seen that more people are installing heat pump HVAC systems and not even applying for the rebate. It seems like it's just sort of becoming the normal standard thing to do when your furnace goes out. There's still plenty of furnaces going in, sure, but it seems like more and more people are just getting a heat pump because that's what the market is changing into, and maybe they don't know about the rebate or they don't care as much because it's not as big of a deal to them. So we're definitely seeing a shift happening. But heat pump water heaters are definitely lagging behind. As you can see, there was sort of a big spike last year. There was a lot of rebate money that was available at that point in time, and since then it's dropped quite a bit. So, there has been some growth, but it's not very consistent, and it's not nearly as much as the HVAC systems. So we've been seeing this trend happen over time. 42% in the last year of our water heater permits were for heat pump water heaters, and the other about 60% were for gas water heaters. But I'll note that, water heaters are also less likely to get permits. It's easier to not get caught, basically. And so I think the numbers of heat pumps going in are actually quite a bit lower. And we've also seen that they're more sensitive to rebates. In the times when rebates have been available through state and federal programs, we've seen numbers really jump up. And then when those rebates go away, it falls back down. So all of these reasons are why the staff and the Climate Action Committee thought that now would be a good time to shift the program and focus on heat pump water heaters. So the first kind of big recommendation of tonight is to create heat pump water heater rebates, following that same three-tiered approach with different income limits. So it would be $500 as a standard rebate. For moderate income households, they'd be eligible for $1,500, and low income households for $3,000. These numbers are based on an average incremental cost for heat pump water heaters being somewhere around $1,000 to $2,000. There's some inconsistency in the data, but we think it's in there somewhere. We know that there are cases where the incremental cost is quite a bit higher. Some cases where it's maybe $5,000 or $6,000 more than a gas heat pump water or gas water heater. So part of the reason that low income figure is actually higher than the incremental cost is to try to cover the cost for those folks where they say, well, I'd love to put one in, but for me, based on the quotes I've gotten, it'll be $5,000 more, right? And create some access there. So that's what these are based on. And again, the idea would be to try to get heat pump water heaters to sort of catch up with the popularity of heat pump HVAC systems. The other big shift, in order to kind of keep the budget of the program roughly the same, would be to actually end the standard income HVAC rebate. So this would be for folks that don't fall into the moderate or low income categories, which are the majority of the people applying for these rebates. And it would end that $1,000 rebate, $1,000 for ducted and $500 for ductless. It would end that rebate after about a 2 to 3 month transition period, just so we make sure that, we're not ending it the day before someone was, just about to apply. It would keep the same rebates for moderate and low income households just as they are now, and it wouldn't affect any rebates that are already reserved because we do have a reservation system that we use. And then we also have a recommendation for changes to the ductless HVAC rebates. So, of course, with our previous recommendation, the standard income rebate would be going away, it'd be sunsetting. But for those remaining moderate and low income rebates, our recommendation is, first of all, to increase it for the low income, and just to kind of get it into line with the ratios that we've been using. It just didn't get changed at one point in the past and didn't quite match up. So we wanted to change it to match up. And then also to start providing additional funding for households that are getting either 2 or 3 ductless units installed. Because what we've seen is that it's becoming more and more common for people to install 1, 2, 3, even 4 or 5 ductless systems in their house, in different rooms, different floors. And in certain cases, this can be a much more cost-effective approach than installing all these new ducts. And for certain kinds of homes, a ducted HVAC system, a ducted heat pump is just not an option. It just won't work. And then, we look at their overall cost of their project, and it's way higher than someone who's just putting in a single ductless unit. And so it just felt like they weren't really getting a rebate that was equivalent to the kind of cost that they were taking on. And we wanted to make sure that we were filling that gap and making it possible for people who wanted to take this approach that make the most sense for their home without feeling like they were losing out on rebate funds. So that's the approach here, and basically for 1 unit it's 1,000, 2 units 2,000, 3,000. So fairly simple stepping up. This is just a summary of what all the changes look like. So the new rebates are in red here, and the ones that are being interchanged are crossed out, as you can see. So here we go. We see our standard heat pump HVAC rebate is going away. For moderate and low income, it stays the same, but we have an increased amount for low income here for the ductless, and then these new second and third ductless unit amounts. And then down here, our new heat pump water heater rebates with the 3 standard moderate and low income amounts. The electric panel upgrade bonus is staying the same. We don't have any suggested changes to that. So with all of those changes in mind, we designed it with the intent to keep it roughly within the same budget that we've had for the past few years. Our biennial budget that was just passed by the council a few months ago includes about $60,000 for the rebate program within the community development department budget. It's not a line item, but it's, that's how we kind of budgeted out the department. And so we've estimated that these amounts will roughly align with that budget, and we expect that we'll be able to keep the program running without needing to pause it or add wait lists. And we've found that that's been a really important piece of the program, is that it is consistent over time, whereas a lot of other programs just kind of, they boom and bust, and it makes it really hard for people to plan. So that's part of the reasoning for all the numbers you see there as well. As I mentioned, this is both a Climate Action Committee and staff recommendation. The language that we put here, sort of to summarize all of the things I showed to you, was to update the heat pump rebate program to include rebates for heat pump water heaters and the standard rebate for heat pump HVAC systems, and provide additional funds for multi-unit ductless installations. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I'm sure several of us on the dais have many questions. I'll just start with the one quick question. Just one quick question. When folks do apply for permits, are they notified that the rebates are available?
We don't automatically notify people when they apply for a permit.
Okay. Go ahead, Councilmember Hanson-Romero.
Hi, one of the things that I was noticing, because obviously rebate programs are, we're seeing more and more of the rebate programs available depending on, city, state, county programs, as well as also incentives from manufacturers. Most of the manufacturer sites, and just some of the information I was looking for right now, I noticed that they used a percentage, and I remember you were saying something, well, we don't know how much it costs. It could be this much or it could be that much. And we have specific figures rather than a percentage up to X amount of dollars, which is probably something that I think maybe we should look at more thoughtfully and carefully, and maybe be able to offer it more broadly, as well as that's a great question, Mayor Lopez, is what you cost. I think any person who arrives at our permit counter or submits an application online should somehow be linked to the opportunities that are available, so that it's on more of a equitable basis for everybody, not just the people who are looking to search for rebates, but that everybody in our community should be, oh, did you know that this is available to you? These are the options. And so some of these I'm noticing, like, oh, well, this, rebate, it's 30% of the cost of the product or product and installation. So I'd just like to try to think about that a little bit more carefully. we could still do like up to 1,000 or up to 3,000 or whatever. But maybe we're able to like spread the wealth a little bit more by offering those incentives. And maybe it's 30% or 35% for one program, maybe 45% for moderate income, 55% for low income, something along those lines, maybe. Just throwing out those questions and thoughts, so.
Yeah, I mean, I can say that it definitely would be possible to do a percentage model. I think the potential concern would be that contractors could just write really high quotes, or they could lie about what the quote is, and we'd have to create a new system for checking that, or just do it based on trust and hope that people are being honest about what the cost is. But it would be possible to do. I think if we wanted to go that route, we'd kind of have to recalculate a little bit to see what those numbers would end up being. But that would be an interesting approach.
Also, I was just wondering if we're checking to make sure, if we're having anybody who takes our rebate program, are they also getting, where's the balance in checks over? They're not applying for both a county program and a city program, what I mean?
Yeah, we don't check that at the moment. We say that our rebates are stackable with other programs. And in part, I think that's because we're not doing a percentage approach, it's a lump sum. But in theory, you could still do a percentage and allow it to be stackable. But yeah, it would definitely be more labor intensive to try to track what other programs people are using.
Well, because I noticed the other sites are requiring that they fill out IRS documentation so that they're stating, that they received a certain amount of money per program or something. So that's kind of how they're tracking it through their systems. So I just want to also make sure that legality-wise, we're following in line with what is, applicable for our city to do as well.
Michelle, thanks for the presentation. Quick question. Over the last few years, has the $60,000 fund been completely expended in any year? Or is it...
So the total amount that has been approved by council so far is $180,000 over the past 3 years. So yeah, it kind of averages out to about $60,000 a year. It's gone a little bit up and down as we've changed the program and increased amounts and things. But as of now, we've either paid or reserved almost 100% of that total. So yeah, it's pretty close to that amount.
Thank you.
Michelle, could you go back to your slides? The one that talks about, I think it was the water heaters, and the chart was 1,000 and 2,000 and 3,000, but you said it was possibly closer to 5,000?
Yeah, sorry, one second. Yeah, so we have, so up top here, these are the recommended rebate amounts for each income level. The average incremental costs that we've seen in our data, in our permit data for the city itself, the average incremental cost is about $1,000. Other data that I've seen that looked at unpermitted work said it was closer to $2,000. And then I've also heard anecdotes with much higher numbers where they're saying sometimes it's $5,000 more even, I think sometimes those very high differences are the ones where we're not seeing it in the permits because they just don't do that project. So there's some missing data there, but yeah, we think the average is something in that $1,000 to $2,000 range.
So if a person were to apply and be granted say a $2,000, or it costs $2,000, but they were low income, so they're entitled to $3,000, they only get $2,000 though, right? I mean, how does that piece work?
This would be we're looking at the incremental cost. So, in theory, they would come to us and they say, I'm getting a heat pump water heater installed. It costs $8,000, and they'd get a rebate of $3,000. Right. And it might be that they got a quote for a gas water heater that was only $6,000. It's only a $2,000 difference, and so they're actually benefit, like they're essentially profiting from it. So that would be the case sometimes. I think in other cases, the incremental cost is actually $4,000 and we're covering $3,000 of it. But I think it's very unlikely that you'd see a heat pump water installation where the cost of the project itself is less than $3,000.
That's what I wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Any further question? No? All right, we'll take it to public comments.
Mayor, we have like 12 speaker cards, and for those who would like to speak, oh, I'm sorry. Wrong item.
For 11-1.
Hi, this is Lucinda Young. I want to express my full support for the Climate Action Committee and staff's recommendation on this. I know they put a lot of thought into this. I have a lot of personal experience with heat pumps. I have fully electrified my home and was able to take advantage of the Albany heat pump rebate for the HVAC. I have also explored trying to replace my mother-in-law's gas hot water heater with a heat pump hot water heater and got several bids. And I'm also in the process of replacing or under contract to replace a gas hot water heater for my church with a heat pump hot water heater. I just want to say the $1,000, $2,000 increment that Michelle cited, my experience is that that's way too little. And the increment is actually between a gas installation, gas hot water installation, and a heat pump installation is typically much, much larger than that. My mother-in-law, for example, it was $2,500 to replace her gas hot water heater. She's in Oakland, gas hot water heater with another gas hot water heater versus $9,000 for a heat pump. So I heard Peggy's concern about providing too much, and I don't think that's the increment, in my experience, is quite a bit more than $1,000 to $2,000. I did want to just address a couple of comments that are recommendation suggestions from Jennifer Hanson-Romero on the suggestion on going with a percentage. The federal tax, there's currently a federal tax credit for heat pumps, but that is expiring at the end of this year, along with all of the other clean energy credits. So that is going away. But that is based on a percentage up to 2,000, a max of 2,000. And almost never given the cost, almost never do you get less than the 2,000 just because they're expensive. And also, there are currently no county heat pump rebate programs. There is a federal tax credit that's expiring, and Tech Clean, the state, periodically has issued rebate programs. They go very, very quickly. They're very unpredictable. There was one that issued last in fall of 2023, was completely used up in 2 years. Same thing, fall of 2024. So those are very unpredictable. Anyway, I completely support this. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Hi, it's Jean Wu again, and there were a couple of things. One is I think that it's very theoretically nice to have a percentage amount, but I think in reality, having a firm number makes it much easier for the homeowner or the business owner to understand what they're really getting. So they will be able to sort of put a peg in that and keep that in mind and be able to evaluate the contractor bids accordingly. The other one is I think the contractors have in recent years been jacking up the prices an ungodly amount. I've heard prices of $10,000 and more for a heat pump water heater. So this concept that it's a $2,000 difference may be based on older data, But newer data, I think, will show more like a $5,000 to $6,000 difference. So the amount that you're offering is low compared to that, but on the other hand, offering something is better than nothing. And the other thing is whether or not the heat pump water heater program also includes, in addition, the incentives for upgrading the electrical if that is required. And I'm not sure if that was addressed. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. All right, that is wrapping up public comments on item 11-1. We'll bring it back to council for discussion. Who's ready to throw some gloves?
Sorry, if we could just respond to Jean Wu's question about electrical panels. So there is a rebate for electrical panels that have to be updated with heat pumps. I believe that was Jean Wu's last question.
Yeah, maybe if staff could just reiterate that verbally. I think it was $500, $1,500, $2,000 or something.
Yeah, the amounts were, sorry, $500, $1,000, or $2,000 for an electrical panel upgrade going along with a heat pump project. So that would be either the HVAC or heat pump water heater.
Just to be clear, that's in addition of, on top of the rebate for either of those appliances or both together. Thanks. So thank you for the question, Councilmember Mickey, and the answer regarding the how much the allocation from the past is left. I'm understanding it's pretty much all reserved out, so we'd be starting to work into the $60,000 for this fiscal year. Very good. I see you nodding yes. Thank you, staff and Climate Action Committee. If any members are listening in for designing this update, I think that's really one of the graces of having this program is that it's under Albany's control, and so it can change to maximum benefit. I'm thrilled to see that the percentage of moderate and low income has increased dramatically. It's still less than 20% of the total that have been issued, but my guess is over the last year it's been a pretty high percentage of those that have been issued in the last year since we made that adjustment.
Yeah, we've definitely seen an increase. Yeah, absolutely.
That's a huge success because I'm very concerned about those households getting left holding the bag on maintaining the cost of maintaining the gas system. I certainly agree with the removing the incentive for households with above moderate income for HVAC heat pumps. They have their own incentive built in, which is that they provide air conditioning. And that's going to become more and more of an incentive for those households that can afford it right out of pocket to move to that. So unfortunately, sort of a fortunately, unfortunately situation, climate change is going to provide the incentive there, which is not the case with water heat or heat pumps. So I'm excited to see the transition to subsidizing those heat pumps. I will, in addition, note my understanding is that the area Air Management District, I think they changed their name, and it's under its previous name, as of 2027, prohibited sales of gas-fired water heaters in the Bay Area. Do you know, is it sales or is it installation? Or I'm kind of confused about that.
Yeah, it is sales and installation.
Both, okay.
Yeah, it's both. And then in 2029, the same is true for HVAC systems.
Right. So I think that makes this period now particularly important to have these rebates to start building up people's knowledge and building up the industry to be able to meet that moment that hits in 2027, because that's going to be a pretty massive change. I'm worried about the trades having capacity to be able to meet that. So to the extent we can get more of those being installed now, it's going to help build the capacity in the trades for that. I appreciate the suggestion of going with the percentage. I am not inclined to that because I think part of the beauty of Albany's program is the simplicity and the increasing the administrative overhead. Kind of reminds me of what our federal government has unfortunately done with the big ugly bill of requiring work requirements. And I've heard that in past experiences, the amount of money that's spent on administration to administer work requirements is a multiple of the cost of actually the benefit that is provided. And so I want to stay as far away from that situation as possible. So yes, maybe some people will get a little benefit that they wouldn't get if the program was, have more administrative overhead in it. But I don't think, to use a phrase the Vice Mayor used, I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze. I think that's what you said. Yeah, it's a great phrase. So I support the proposal. Thank you.
Any additional comments from?
I think I would still, just because one of the main key components of this is just getting the information out to as many people as possible. It's fine if we don't want to go the route of percentages, although maybe those percentages might be higher for certain than the actual typical number, but I understand the concern over staff time and resources. But I would like to see that information being distributed more readily at the permit counter when people come in to apply for things, because I think sometimes, maybe certain contractors or certain consumers may not realize that they have that option, and they're, oftentimes trying to just go with the least expensive thing as possible, and so they're just going to replace this with this. So I think having more information up front on to the general public or to the contractors as they come in the door, or some sort of a email notification when they're going to apply for a permit online, just to give them that extra little incentive or information, so that more people can be aware of it.
Just as a follow-up question, are you specifically talking about people that are applying for permits for gas equipment, or for people applying for heat pumps as well?
Well, I would say both, because if you catch the people who are just going to come in and ask for a gas stove or a gas furnace, and, oh, I didn't know I could get this for a heat pump version, to electrify. I didn't realize that there was an incentive for that. So giving both of those options, I was unfortunate to be a part of a house fire from a floor furnace a few years back, and the insurance company didn't even give the option to do a heat pump. They just like item for like item, and we did the permit for another floor furnace. I didn't even think they made them anymore. So.
And even the insurance company, which you
And
would
even
think
the
would be
insurance
like, don't install another one of those.
So that's why I'm just saying, I'd like to get more information out there than less. So.
I will note, just for consideration, although I very much take your point, the reason we haven't done outreach for folks that are applying for heat pump permits is basically the concept that if this is meant to be an incentive to convince people to switch, then if we're doing outreach to people that have already made that decision, then the money that's going to them is making less of an impact. However, you brought up the point that there's sort of an equity issue there potentially, but that's the reason we haven't been doing that outreach. So I'd be curious how other council members think about that, but we definitely can start doing more outreach to all permit applicants.
Well, and also to that point is perhaps if they are here to get a heat pump for one item, and paying for it, not realizing that there is an incentive, perhaps if they knew that there was an incentive, maybe they would be electrifying 2 items in their household rather than just one.
Yeah, potentially there could just be really short, like catch-all phrasing at the bottom of the application, whether online or on paper. It just says, learn about our rebate program. I can entirely hear what you're just sharing, though, that if people are already going to commit to converting, then it kind of takes away from the point of incentivizing folks who were probably on the fence. I know I was one of those people on the fence when my family needed to make upgrades on their property, and it made a big difference. And now there's no more HERA rebates for anyone. So I'm on the fence about that now after hearing what you just shared and like seeing it from that context, that perhaps it may be doing a disservice putting phrasing like that, or when the people who are already submitting already made that commitment? And I'm happy to hear from other folks.
So, Michelle, thank you again for the presentation, and thank you for providing us more information now. I think with the shift for it being, particularly for the HVAC, primarily for moderate income and low income, I think it's all the more important that we be upfront with everyone that there are these rebates out there. Yes, I think because we really want to make sure that they help make those decisions. The other thing I would note is that a lot of times when these permits are being pulled, they're being pulled by the contractor, right? And so if the contractor finds out that rebates are there, that means as that contractor does more work in Albany, they can say, hey, you're asking me for this gas heater. Did you know that, while the heat pump costs more, you can get a rebate that brings it closer to on par, and here are all the benefits. And so I think from an education standpoint, it's really important, because the vast majority of the time it's not my assumption is that many of these permits are being pulled by contractors as opposed to homeowners. And I could be wrong on that, but in that case, it's also educating the contractors, and frankly, can help them make a pitch when they may put a estimate together for a potential client. So.
I think one of the things that we hear all the time is the city doesn't communicate well. Here's an example that we can communicate better that's relatively easy. I like what the mayor said about just a line or two on the application or in a flyer that we're handing people or on the website. Or it doesn't have to be every word about every rebate, but just, hey, have you looked to see these? If I'd spent a whole lot of money getting a heat pump or a whatever, and then found out that I could have gotten a rebate from the city, I'd be less than happy with the City of Albany. And, that's what we hear, is you don't communicate. Well, let's communicate better. Otherwise, I really like this. One of the things I like about it, we've changed it a few times. We'll probably change it a few more times. I like the flexibility that it has, that you and the Climate Action Committee can look at the data and see what needs to be tweaked. And I think that's great. And it doesn't always work that way, but in this case it does. And, again, thank you for the work that you and the committee have done on this. Ready for motion?
Well, I just want to offer, I do support communicating to each permit applicant for reasons that have been stated, and even if it doesn't make a difference in the decision for that permit, it could have knock-on effects by building word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for all those reasons, and similar to what I've been pushing for with traffic calming surveys to see if traffic calming is warranted, trying to move from a situation where it's dependent on the institutional knowledge of the applicant or the household, which we know varies in a way that can create inequity, to try to level the playing field as much as possible in that regard. So yes, I support. I will support the motion, presuming it includes that aspect.
Ready for motion?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then I'll move that we update the heat pump rebate program to include rebates for heat pump water heaters and the standard rebate for heat pump HVAC systems, and provide additional funds for multi-unit ductless installation, and include information about the program during the permitting process. Does that give you what you need?
I will second.
All right, thank you. City Clerk?
Vice Mayor McQuay?
Yes.
Mayor Lopez?
Yep.
Councilmember Hanser Romero?
Yes.
Councilmember Jordan?
Yes.
Councilmember Menke?
Yes.
Motion carries.
One other, if I may.
Yeah.
I think would also be useful to, and maybe it's already being conveyed, but to make sure that permit applicants know that their electrification permit fee is being waived by the city. There is a fee, and that's actually another incentive. Is that occurring currently, or is it just there's no fee and they don't really know why?
As member Mickey pointed out, it's generally the contractors who are participating in that process. We've done extensive outreach with contractors, both about the permit fee waivers and the rebates. We try to do outreach with, building owners as well, although it's a little bit more difficult. But yeah, we try to spread the word about that, and we can add that in with this push towards permit education.
Should have thought of that for the motion, but thank you.
It's okay, we got it.
All
Thank you,
right, well,
Council.
thank you again. Really appreciate it, and appreciate that we're constantly evolving language and opportunity to be more equitable in access for folks. That being said, we will now move on to item 11-2, refreshing the land acknowledgement. This is an item brought before you by myself and Vice Mayor McQuaid. I will preface this by saying that I want to make it explicitly and adamantly clear that none of us see or identify ourselves as the arbiter of indigeneity, and I think that's also very important for us to recognize here on the dais. I'm sure we're going to hear from many folks very, very soon, and I want you all to be mindful and respectful of that. We have many different folks present this evening. In terms of the land acknowledgement, which you should see in attachment, this was something that I had encouraged Vice Mayor McQuaid to take and run with me. And again, part of this is not to at all in any way, shape, or form contribute to erasure of anyone or any groups. It was our attempt to see if we could find better catch-all language that is more inclusive of the different spaces and representations of the original land stewards that do represent our region. And clearly, there's always opportunity for language to be improved and enhanced, or for us to also learn. I'll also just say that myself personally, I've had to be very careful about who I engage and to whom I have these conversations with, because there are a significant number of folks in this room who I've had different levels of varying relationships with, and so please take no offense if there has been no previous approach in seeing this item on this evening's agenda. But I will say lastly, before I pass it to Vice Mayor McQuaid, that one of the reasons this came about as a conversation and wanted to refresh the land acknowledgement this evening was because of this concept of this idea of making sure we're trying to be a bit more inclusive of different folks and different entities who represent the original land stewards. And so when we acknowledged that we were going to have a proclamation to acknowledge President Vincent Medina, we did also acknowledge that maybe this is an opportunity to refresh the land acknowledgement and look at language. And I'm thankful. It looks like we got quite a few folks from different entities and organizations here to perhaps help educate us better, learn better, evolve in the process. That said, I'll pass it to Vice Mayor McQuaid.
Thank you, Mayor. I think you've pretty much said all there is to be said. I'll just sort of reiterate that I think periodically in anything that we do, it's always good to kind of stop and look at it, refresh it, think about why we do it, what we're actually doing, and making sure that it's really reflective of what we're trying to do and reflective of our community. And we did look at a lot of different land acknowledgements, and that's why we're proposing this updated version. And as the mayor mentioned, we're interested in what you all have to say, and hopefully we'll come out with the solution that's the best we can get.
All right, and then before I take it to council for any questions, the last thing I will say is that as we're all very much aware here on the dais, oftentimes when we have something on the agenda for approval doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be approved this evening. That we do often go through iteration. So I just also want to make that abundantly clear to folks in the public as well, that the language is always up for being adjusted and adapted, or for there to be proposed actions for future, as future agenda items, meaning we can't make those moves this evening, like say create an ad hoc committee this evening because it's not agendized, but if that does become a conversation, then that could be up to for consideration to look at that as a future agenda item, and have then by doing that, allowing folks on council to directly interact and engage and communicate with different tribal representation without violating the Brown Act. That's been one of the bigger issues that has been before us. This is not an easy thing to bring forward, but we are hopeful that this is an opportunity to maybe address some of the long-standing harm that our society had done to the indigenous people of this land. And again, land acknowledgements don't solve problems, and they don't address the generational harms of genocide and land theft, but they do help establish commitments for action. And if we can get closer to doing so by refreshing the land acknowledgement, then we're well on the path to something better. That said, I'll open it up to council for any questions before we go to public comment.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Vice Mayor. I appreciate you taking this on. If I recall correctly, continual renewal was a goal that was specified in the original adoption. So I very much appreciate that you have done this. I don't know if you can say what resources were consulted or people were consulted or groups were consulted in this. And if you prefer not to, that's fine as well. But
as I mentioned before, we did look at other land acknowledgements in the area. One specifically was from the university.
Thank you.
And thank you again, Councilmember Jordan, for highlighting knowledge. Like part of the reason why Vice Mayor McQuaid and myself had decided to look at this is that this was part of our strategic plan goals several months ago when we as a council had gotten together. For those who may not have been aware, there was a meeting several months back where we did discuss this. So thank you again, Councilmember Jordan, for highlighting that this is kind of what triggered these conversations to come out and for us to look at, do we need to refresh the land acknowledgement? Anything else? Oh. With that said, I will open it up for public comment, but before I do, City Clerk, can I check in to see how many we have so I can be mindful of timing?
We have 13 speaker cards, and we have 6 hands so far. Maybe for those who would like to speak on 11-2, please raise your hand. It's on Zoom.
Okay.
Maybe more.
Yeah, I would say, so I'm going to say in the interest of time, I'm going to limit public comment for this item to 2 minutes per person. And again, I do know this is a sensitive topic for folks, and so I just want to stress for folks to be collegial, pleased with each other, and understand that we use this as an opportunity to learn from each other. With that said, City Clerk, public comments.
I'll call 3 up at a time, so if you can line up behind the podium as I called you. Courtney Cummings, Reverend Deborah Lee, and Laura Collin. I'm calling them by the order that I received them.
And I'm just asking if it's possible for you to rearrange the order so that the spokesperson
I will defer to city staff on that.
Sure.
And what is your name?
I'm Laura Callen. I would like to speak, but I would like to speak after Indigenous people.
Okay, go ahead.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, Madam and City Council. Thank you for this opportunity to come forward and publicly speak. My name is Courtney Bearquiver. I am Northern Cheyenne, Arikara, and Muskogee Creek. Ojibwe Kangu Dadish, Courtney Cummings, Bearquiver, and I bring you greetings from my Arikara people. I'm an enrolled member of Fort Berthold, Newtown, North Dakota. I acknowledge the original people of this land that are the Ohlone people, and I thank them and I'm grateful to their ancestors for allowing me and my family to be raised here on their land. So I just want to say I'm very happy that Albany is trying to heal the wound that goes deep by many, many centuries of colonization that still continues to this day. And I want to acknowledge my people and ancestors and thank you. I have done the Richmond powwow for the past 15 years as a way to continue the culture of my people, but to be shared publicly with everyone. So everyone's welcome, because we need to do that if we're going to heal each other. So with your land acknowledgement, please it makes me happy to see that you're acknowledging the original people of this land. But please continue to be in contact with the Luzon Nation. If you're going to make any changes, we're still here. You can still talk to us. We're not in books. We're a phone call away. But please don't make any decisions without contacting the people at this original land, is all that I ask as a Plains Native American. Mado.
Thank you for your comment.
After, okay, go ahead.
Good evening. I'm the tribal chair of the Confederated Villages of Lashawn Nation. So happy to be here in front of the Mayor Lopez and Vice Mayor McQuaid and the City Council here. I sent a note in today for a comment, and I thought I would read it out loud here because sometimes City Council gets their comments and they don't always get to go through all of the business that they have to. So, dear Mayor Lopez and City Council, it is with grave concern that you're considering a change to the City of Albany land acknowledgement that will deliberately erase the Confederated Villages of Lashawn Nation from the official documents. The erasure of our tribe is an act of irreparable violence that continues the legacy of settler colonialism. We are appalled that the City of Albany is advocating for this erasure of our people. Furthermore, the changes to the land acknowledgement flagrantly disregards years of service on our end to create good relationships with the City of Albany and the Confederated Villages of Lashawn Nation. While we applaud you for the recognition of President Vincent Medina of the Ohlone tribe, we are shocked that the City of Albany will turn around and erase the existence of our tribe. Just like Vince Medina's Ohlone tribe, the Confederated Villages of Lashawn Nation is recognized by the Native American Heritage Commission. Also, our histories of creating good relationships and working with multiple communities in the City of Albany to educate and to protect ecosystems, land, and waterways is widely recognized and respected by the community organizations and institutions throughout the Bay Area. This disrespect shown by the City of Albany comes as a shock to us. The current land acknowledgement was created by hours of conversations, labor, and relationship building conducted between our tribe, city staff, and former Mayor Gary. 4 years ago, the City of Albany created great strides by working with our tribe to create comprehensive land acknowledgement, and it included changing the city signage to educate the community about our communities.
Thank you for your
In
comment.
addition, we worked with the Vice Mayor McQuaid to raise our tribal flag over the City of Albany. This was a historic moment that was brought a lot of positive attention to the city. The City of Albany recognized the importance of our work by becoming the
Tribal
second
Chair,
city
thank you
of
for your
this
comment.
territory, in our territory, to pay Shumi to the Segorte Land Trust. We envisioned a long partnership between the city and our tribe that would support our work and vision to protect land and water. This service benefits families and communities throughout the City of Albany. The Confederated Villages of Lishan Nation continues to collaborate with Mayor Lopez in many official advisory roles. We serve as advisors along with Mayor Lopez on the Giltrack Farms, and we are working with several Albany educators and scholars to create interdistrict curriculum to be used in classrooms to educate students on California Bay Area Indian histories. We strongly encourage the City of Albany not to vote on the changes to the land acknowledgement tonight, but to set up a meeting with our tribe before any changes are made. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. I will state, unfortunately, that I do have to limit comment to 2 minutes apiece. So please be respectful and mindful of that, folks. But I also just want to acknowledge that tribal woman, Karina Gold, I think does deserve that time and space to speak the entirety of the letter that we all did receive on council, and I do want to acknowledge that. Thank you.
After Deborah Lee will be Laura and Miriam Walden and Loa. Okay, Loa N. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Reverend Deborah Lee. I'm a 20-year resident of Albany with my intergenerational family. I'm the executive director of an interfaith organization called the Interfaith Movement for Human Integrity. And the Lejeune Ohlone have been key religious partners with us as part of an interfaith organization. They have been hosted most recently a 22-mile pilgrimage for ceasefire and the right of return in Palestine and their sacred land and the freeing and the wonderful victory of the return of the West Berkeley shell mound. That is just one example of the many ways they have literally transformed the Bay Area, including our city of Albany, with countless, countless hours of generosity and labor. 3 years ago in this room, we were here, and part of the post-George Floyd moment, this city wanted to recognize and repair some of the racial harms that we have been part of. That meant recognizing the original habitants. It meant engaging in meaningful education, the land acknowledgement, the flag, so many important things that made me very proud to be an Albany resident. This change in the land acknowledgement without conversation is the most painful thing that I think we could do to a partner that has been in good relationship. It is a symbol of us being a bad partner. And as the city of Albany, I would hope that we would learn as settlers to this land of what does it mean to be a good partner. And you just can't be a partner with someone and then change things without any conversation or dialogue. And that's really disappointing to me as a city council that would be acting on my behalf as a resident here. What kind of behavior are we exhibiting? What are the guiding principles that we have? And what kind of decisions will our council make without full consultation and treating everyone as full human beings with the respect that they deserve? So please table this conversation until there can be consultation with the Lejeune. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Hello, Mayor Lopez and the rest of the City Council. My name is Laura Callan. I'm an Albany High School parent. I'm also a member of the Lishan Nation Curriculum Collective, which is working directly with Principal Darren McNally at Albany High School and other teachers to build relationship with Lishan Nation and integrate their history, their present, their future into curriculum. And this is in alignment with the rematriation resolution that was passed by the City Council 3 years ago. And so in this work as an educator and an organizer in support of Lishan Nation sovereignty, one of the most basic things that we teach people, and I specifically work to call in other non-Indigenous people to be in good relationship with Lishan Nation. So one of the most basic concepts that we try to talk to people about is what it means to be in right relationship and in good relationship with Indigenous people. To think about what it means to be a good guest on stolen Indigenous land. And the way that this land acknowledgement has been offered up, that has erased a pre-existing relationship with Lishan Nation is appalling. It's stunning. It is just contrary, again, to the most basic understandings of what we're trying to do here when we talk about repair. And so it just demonstrates disrespect for Lishan Nation, for what a land acknowledgement means, if you can just refresh it like you're putting a new coat of paint on it. It also disregards public support in Albany for the relationship with Lishan Nation. So I also echo the call to table this decision on the land acknowledgement, and please consult with Lishan Nation.
Thank you for your comment. And I'll please ask the public to withhold applause. Thank you.
My name is Miriam Walden. I've been a teacher at Albany High for 14 years. And in that capacity, I've been working for 2.5 years with the Lishan Nation on curriculum as part of a committee that includes teachers at the middle school and the elementary school. This significant work we understood to be in line with the city's resolutions and commitments, and it is shocking to have that work not, to see that you're prepared to change those kind of commitments so casually. One of the most important things that I teach students when I'm talking about our relationship with Indigenous communities is that you ask permission. I tell them that my lesson was designed in collaboration with Corinna and the Lishan Nation Curriculum Collective, and that I asked permission for everything that I did. And I tell them that they need to ask permission when they do things in other people's homes. The idea that you would use the Brown Act as an excuse for not consulting is strange, weird. There's nothing in the Brown Act that would prohibit you and Robin and Peggy from meeting with the Lishan Nation Curriculum Collective 2 out of 5. Nothing. So, in fact, the purpose of the Brown Act is to make sure that things happen in daylight, and what you've done here is made a change and tried to put it on the agenda in the middle of the summer without consulting any of the community organizations that involved with the Lishan Nation or the Lishan Nation. A lot of repair, a lot of mistakes, and a lot of colonizer behavior.
Thank you for your comment. Please withhold applause.
After Loa would be Few, last name, last initial N, Rosita V, and Stella L.
Thank you very much, Mayor Lopez and the council. It's good to be here tonight. It is with great honor, and I am so proud to be able to come here and stand in front of a U.S. City Council in the City of Albany and to defend and to fight for the Lishan Ohlone, for the Lishan Nation. This is what I've always watched on TV. This is what I've heard that people do, that they disregard the indigenous people of the land that they are. That's what the U.S. government does. That's what city governments does. That's what I've learned and I've heard my whole life. And to be able to stand here to see that act happen again, and to be able to be I'm just a regular person. I'm an immigrant. I'm a settler on this land. I'm indigenous to the southern part of the Pacific. I'm Tongan. And it's an honor for me to stand here with Karina Gould, the tribal chair of the villages of Lishan. And it is an honor for me to stand here on this land. And also, I am a resident of Berkeley, California, but I spend a lot of my time at Giltrakt Farm. And I teach a lot of the young people who come there, the youth, the elders, the older people who come there. We talk about the Lishan. about the work that they do, about the Hexion Creek, which Karina's daughter, Deja, has learned the Chochenyo name of that creek. And we talk about the sacredness of that creek, and we honor the creek. So this is just a regular thing we do on a daily basis. This is just a regular thing we do as people who live here on this land, who live here in Albany. And we talk about how the creek is sacred. We talk about the Lishan and how they continue to they continue to be the indigenous people of this land. And so that's why I'm so proud to be here and to talk to you about this and to stand with them and say to please table this for a later time after your consultation with Karina and her crew. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Please, no applause.
Hello, City Council. Thank you so much. My name is Dr. Fuifulupe Niumetolu. I'm a professor at UC Santa Cruz. It is, like Laura just said, my sister, it is actually a great honor. And I'm humbled to be here to stand up on behalf of Tribal Chair Karina Gold and the Lishan Ohlone. You know, relatives, it's very interesting to me. The forgetfulness, the not remembering to consult. Karina, Honorable Mayor, I remember how we met. It was actually during COVID. You were a photographer at Aquay Park in Richmond. You came there as one of the many fans supporting the Lishan Ohlone work and Tribal Chair Karina Gold's work. You came there like so many of us because Karina, Deja Gold, and other members of her tribe and family were actually the first indigenous tribe, by the way, to work with the city of Richmond to rehabilitate a park. We were one of many reporters, there were city council members, normal folks who were there because that work was so important. Mayor, I also want to remind you of our relationship where you came actually to my job talk at UC Santa Cruz. You were so supportive and you were so kind. I want to let you know why I got that job. Not only because of my hard work and because my ancestors supported me, but it was because my Dean Elder, and also my chair at the time of my department, Professor Christine Hong, they knew that the work that I did was going to change Santa Cruz. It was going to bring people together. It was also going to create new amendments for climate change and support the young generation. Do you know whose work I follow? Just like so many academics, not just here in California, but all around the world, Mayor? Tribal Chair Karina Gold. This weekend, by the way, everybody, we actually have for UC faculty members all around the UCs, high schools, and community colleges, we're actually hosting a workshop at UC Giltrap. Guess who our keynote speaker is, everybody? And guess why our event is already sold out? That's right, Tribal Chair Karina Gold.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you so much.
Mari Mari Ichita Rosita. I'm a member of the Mapuche Nation, an indigenous group from Walmapu. I am also a Bay Area activist and organizer. I'm here to give absolute solidarity of the Mapuche Nation to the Confederate villages of Lishan people and to Karina Gold, the chairperson. I am Mapuche, and I am no stranger to colonial erasure. I understand how colonial violence works to erase tribes, uses erasure of people and erasure of culture. History is full of these stories of colonial violence. Unfortunately, this can also be done by members of other indigenous communities. I am here to ask that Albany takes the step of absolute respect to be in conversation with Karina Gold. This initiative was rolled out for a potential vote with no consultation with those it impacts. Behind closed doors, those who are not part of local indigenous communities are making decisions without the necessary parties at the table. I have known Karina for some time, and in all of that time, I have seen her work tirelessly for land back, cultural reclamation, revitalization of language, and bringing Ohlone youth to learn ancestral ways. She is someone who has, even to the detriment of herself and her health, given space to the most marginalized, houseless, and those facing genocide and the oppressed. She opens lands and gives space for ceremony and community to gather. She has given displaced members of my tribe space for ceremony and voice. During COVID, she fed community families using her contacts to ensure elders and houseless folks were cared for. She travels to indigenous lands across the nation and recently the Kingdom of Hawaii to share her knowledge of experience and work of land back and rematriation. I say all of this to emphasize that Karina has earned the respect of the community here and far. Karina is fighting for the recognition of her ancestors and for the continued recognition of her people, lineage, and the Bay. I ask, do not vote tonight to change the land acknowledgement. Consult with those that this change will ultimately erase, and do not participate in colonial violence or erasure of the Lishan Nation. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
After Stella would be Vincent Medina, Victoria M., and Deja Gold.
Hi, good evening, Council. My name is Stella Lakey. I'd like to acknowledge my full support for adopting this land to the Ohlone people. The Ohlone Indian tribe is the oldest East Bay Ohlone tribe that is directly from the Verona Band. The acknowledgement proposed is not political, rather inclusive to all Ohlone people in the East Bay. The President, Vincent Medina, is a very trustworthy individual who wholeheartedly has the Ohlone people's best interests at heart. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you for your comment.
Good evening to you all. I don't need large numbers here to be able to state what is fair and just, which is that the current land acknowledgement does not represent an Ohlone collective as a whole, does not represent an entirety of Ohlone people here in the East Bay. For those who are here that are not Ohlone, they're not able to speak on my experiences. And I'm speaking personally, not as president of my tribe, but I'm speaking as an Ohlone person, knowing what invisibility looks like. To be able to recognize one Ohlone group over a collective that's here, knowing, if we want to look at the Native American Heritage Commission, there are 4 Ohlone tribes that are represented. The Ohlone Indian tribe is the oldest, established in 1972. There's the Muwekma Ohlone tribe, the Northern Valley Yokuts tribe. And less than 10 years ago, the Lisjan Nation was established, pronounced Lishan by some. It is unjust that Ohlone children, if they come to Albany, are only seeing one representative that's there of our contemporary community. It's unjust when our elders come into Albany that they don't see themselves reflected, that they're not able to see their own tribes reflected. The acknowledgement that's proposed here, and Mayor Lopez, Vice Mayor McQuaid, I applaud you both for taking on this effort. The acknowledgement that's being proposed is inclusive. It's fair, it's just. And aren't these the things that any city government tries to strive for? Justice, inclusion, fairness, not favoring one group over others, but recognizing a collective. East Bay Ohlone becomes a collective identifier for some, for all of us that are here. Instead of favoring just one group, we ask you, don't table this. Take it on directly. Change has to come forcibly, and it can't just favor one group. It can't favor one individual just because there might be large numbers that are not part of our Ohlone community, speaking here to advocate for the status quo that does not make it just.
Thank you for your
Don't
comment.
table this. We ask you, take it on and be inclusive to our Ohlone community here in the East Bay. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Please withhold applause.
Good afternoon, everybody. On the council, Mayor Robin D. Lopez. My name is Victoria Montaño. My tribal affiliations are Mexicanawa from Central Mexico, as well as Yoeme from so-called Texas. But I'm born and raised here in the in the village of Huchun. So this is the land that has sustained me. This is the only land that I know as home. So I have taken, and it's an honor to actually to work side by side with the Confederate Villages of the Shaw Nation and be a support of the efforts to, one, acknowledge them and to steward their lands with the Segorte Land Trust, as well as support telling their story, as well as supporting sharing the story of what's happening here in the city of Albany and all of the counties that the Confederate Villages of the Shaw Nation represent. I think it's pretty fair to say that the reason why the city of Albany had wanted to do a land acknowledgement in the first place is because they had that relationship with the Confederate Villages of LaShawn that took hours to write, that took hours of building a relationship. And I think also that, I don't think they're trying to imbecilize any other tribe. I think that, there should be a more conversation in depth about, like, what else do you want to add to the land acknowledgement? Not just out of a sudden you want to just change the land acknowledgement. Like, that's not being in right relationships with the people of the land here. I have never heard the Confederate Villages of LaShawn say there's no other existing Ohlone tribes here in the area, so that just shows for itself. And again, I just want to urge you again to be in consultation with the Confederate Villages of LaShawn Nation. There's a lot of words being thrown around tonight, fairness, and I think it's pretty fair if you guys take them in consultation. And as well, look around you, across the street, the Giltrack Albany Farm, the stewardship of the land, the stewardship of many land sites here, and the most recently, the preservation of the oldest village site, the West Berkeley Shell Mound. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Please withhold applause.
After Deja Gold, it'll be Jackie Hermes and Voulette. Go ahead.
Good evening, Council. My name is Deja Gould. I'm a tribal member with the Confederate Villages of LaShawn Nation. So I know that I'm going to stand here and say that I encourage you all to table this.
Can we please? Can we please keep it collegial? Thank you. Thank you, City Clerk, for pausing the time for Deja.
Thank you. I'm going to encourage council to table this and consult with the tribe that you originally established a relationship with. I want to say that I heard your comments in the beginning about maybe needing a refresher in the land acknowledgement, and I will say that that might be true, but because you have established a relationship with this tribe already, it would have been in your favor to consult with the same tribe as well as other tribes. In the original language of the land acknowledgement, the city states, the City of Albany commits to sustaining ongoing relationships with the tribe and together build a better future for all that now make this their home. And I want to say that you have not followed that commitment that you originally made with the tribe. So I'm going to, again, ask that this be tabled and have further consultation. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for running our city. I recognize that I reside on the Ohlone LaShawn Village. I'm a longtime Albany resident, and as a teacher and activist and Giltrack member, I have worked with and supported the LaShawn sovereignty. I was here 3 years ago to support the land acknowledgement, and I'm sad that Albany City Council would change any document and commitment with the local indigenous community that they have developed a relationship with without consulting the nation or Karina Gold, their leader. She has worked, I have seen her work tirelessly for our community. Erasing LaShawn from the land acknowledgement without consultation makes things seem unjust for my Albany City Council. Please do not vote on this land acknowledgement. I have faith in your reconsideration and all of our sacredness.
Thank you for your comment.
Go ahead. What?
My name is Violette. I am a member of the Palestinian Youth Movement, and I'm a community organizer. I'm also humbled to be here. I'm humbled to stand with the Lashan Ohlone Nation, with the Confederated Villages of Lashan, and to really encourage the City Council today to table this decision and to consult the Lashan Ohlone Nation and to consult the Tribal Chair, Karina Gold, who has given a voice to my people who are actively facing a genocide, who are actively facing mass starvation, and can't help but to see the parallels of erasure in this decision. And as an immigrant and a settler on this land, exiled from my homeland in Palestine, exiled from being able to return to my grandparents' village in Jaffa, I stand in full solidarity and stand in full support of the Lashan Ohlone Nation, and really I know that the City Council has passed a ceasefire resolution in January to also recognize the pain and the suffering that my people are facing in Palestine. And I encourage you to make the right decision again today in reconsidering passing this decision and consulting the Lashan Ohlone Nation, who has shown, and through all of the speeches today, has shown how integrated, how important they are to the community, to so many different communities, including the Palestinian community. And they deserve to be given this recognition, to be talked to have this consultation, and to have this dialogue and to be included into this resolution and in this decision. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your comment.
Go ahead, Tiny Garcia.
A formerly houseless resident of Berkeley and many times Albany, and co-founder of Poor Magazine, a grassroots movement of poor and houseless people, indigenous people in the Bay Area. The Ohlone Lashan Nation has stood by houseless relatives, has stood by indigenous relatives, has stood by Black and brown Palestinian and every other community, and acted in right relationship with Mama Earth, protecting the air, the water, and all of the beings. And this city, Albany, right now with this move, you should be ashamed of yourselves, actually ashamed, and trying to cloak it in some kind of words like refresh. That's deplorable, absolutely deplorable. And it is a replication of the genocide, of the erasure of the hundreds of years of settler colonial genocide. Albany, it shouldn't even be called Albany. I mean, why aren't we talking about land back to the first peoples of this land? And that's all of the first peoples, including the other relatives. Like, why are we talking about fighting over some words when we really should be talking about the real thing, which is land reclamation and land rematriation, which Karina has worked tirelessly over. And the city of Berkeley has already enacted to stand with the Ohlone Nation, and you relatives from this city are absolutely standing in, a place that is shameful, period. So I hope that this whole night is repealed and that you do the right thing, put this on pause, meet with all the stakeholders, that would be all
Thank you for your
the
comment.
First Nations people.
Hi, my name is Amber. I'm an Albany resident, and I'm here answering the call of Indigenous matriarchs of the land that I live on. And like many of the other people here, I'm shocked that the City Council would try to move so quickly on something without consulting those who are the most relevant to the conversation. It's shocking to hear that you consulted with UC Berkeley, or it sounds like you sort of shopped around for a broad and bland statement. And what we know about land and peoples is that specificity matters, that broadening terms for people does cause erasure. And I hope that you backtrack on this with a quickness. And I hope that you do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Is it me? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm asking the City Council, please do not vote on the land proclamation tonight, at least until they've had a chance to speak to the tribe who has been working hand in hand with the City of Albany, the Lishawn Nation. My mother's name is Reina Guzman. She is also Mary Archuleta's niece. She's the last of the Archuleta Munoz Guzman line. She is also an elder of Lishawn Nation and is also asking, please, do not vote until you can meet with the Lishawn Nation. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Yeah, hello, this is Haikanush. I'm a longtime resident of Albany, and I'm embarrassed to say that actually I don't know anything about the history of the people who've been living in our land long before we came. But regardless of that, without knowing the history, I still can see that this measure is being railroaded in, and it'd be good to stop and talk to everyone involved before voting on it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Thank you. This is Cheryl Davila, a former council member in the City of Berkeley. Welcome to the City of Berkeley, Ohlone territory. That was my legislation, which you followed, and it made me very proud to have Ohlone territory on the Berkeley signs, and made me more proud when I walk by the signs in Albany and see that you took on that and put Ohlone territory on your signs. And when you talked about the land acknowledgement at the beginning of this meeting, what did you say? You said you were going to contact or communicate with the Ohlone people in your land acknowledgement, and now you're going to erase you're trying to erase that? What does that sound like to me? It sounds like the same thing that's going down in Palestine, trying to erase a whole population of Palestinians. And how can you do that here in Berkeley, in Albany, in the Bay Area, when we have Ohlone people? You have the tribal chair of the Confederated Villages right there in front of you, and you're gonna disrespect? No. That can't happen now, not in 2025 when we have 47 he's not my president, but you know what he is. And we're going through fascism, and we're trying to erase minorities, immigrants, and now you're trying to erase indigenous people of this land, the Ohlone people. No, you can't do that. Please reconsider. Table this, talk to the people that you need to talk to. Talk to Karina Gould. Do the right thing. Make us proud that you did the right thing. Make us proud of yourself. We need to love everyone right now. Not hate, not erase, not exclude. All power to the people. Power to the Ohlone people.
Thank you for your
And
comment.
thank you, Karina, and all that.
Hello?
Go ahead, Jeremy.
Yes. Thank you very much. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that I am a resident of Huichin. I was born into the stolen land of the Bay Area, and I want to acknowledge that this is Ohlone land, and I want to acknowledge all the nations and tribes that are of this land. Now, the question at hand is that this council has taken upon itself to make a decision about a question of representation and acknowledgement of the different First Peoples of this land. And I want to say, you have no right. You have no right. Making a decision without consultation of the Confederated Villages of Lishan is taking upon yourself a plenary power to make a decision about how things should move forward for Ohlone people. You have no right. There is no difference whatsoever, no provisos will save you from this. There's no difference whatsoever between this and colonial erasure in older times, period. Secondly, as Tiny pointed out, this is all stolen land. So, and the Lishan Nation is known not because of social media influencers. They are known because they are present in our community and because of the love work that they have put in. That is why they're known. That is why they're acknowledged. It's not to separate them to the detriment of any other peoples. And so the idea, regardless, I am no more empowered than you are to make a determination of representation. But regardless of that, it is incumbent upon you, owe it to the Lishan Nation for consultations
Thank
before
you for
any
your
such
comment.
decision is made.
Hello.
Go ahead.
My name is Reverend Allison Tanner. I'm a religious leader in the East Bay who has partnered with the Lishan Nation in countless ways that have benefited and blessed people throughout the East Bay. I wanted to add my voice in saying that I'm deeply disturbed that you're considering making a change to your land acknowledgement without consulting the very people who you are saying you acknowledge. If your intentions behind even having a land acknowledgement are sincere, then you have a responsibility to engage in conversation with those whose history you are honoring and whose reality you are continuing to partner with. It's been my experience with the Lishan Nation that they are willing and eager to heal broken relationships from the past, and I beseech you to engage in conversations so that those conversations can move toward healing and repair. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Good evening. My name is Sean Malloy. I'm a professor of history and critical race and ethnic studies at the University of California, Merced, and a member of the UC Ethnic Studies Council. To erase the Lishan Ohlone from your land acknowledgement is to do the work of colonialism. It is quite simply an act of violence. I could spend hours talking about the amazing work that Karina and the Lishan Nation have done from the East Bay to Palestine. I will not do so because neither Corrina Gould nor the Lishan Nation should have to justify their existence to this body here. Table the motion. I yield my time.
Please withhold applause. Thank you for your comment.
Greetings. My name is Lee Clausen. Thank you for hosting this meeting and allowing us to speak. I am also here to echo the many statements requesting a reconsideration and time to deliberate and communicate with the appropriate parties, including the Lishan Ohlone peoples. My mother is Jerry Fox Clausen. She has spent over 30 years serving as a family nurse practitioner with the Native American Health Center. And I'm here to represent her, my grandmother, my grandfather, my great-grandmother of the Blackfoot Nation, as well as the many relations I do not know because I'm an internationally adopted person. I reside under the jurisdiction of Oakland, California, and will be looking to follow up on this resolution as a concerned citizen and a person learning to live in a better way each day. Yeah, that being said, please table until you can reconsider and reconvene. Thank you for your time. That's what I have to say.
Thank you for your comment. All right, that concludes public comment on this item. What I will say is that we've definitely heard from a variety of folks and experiences, and I will acknowledge that we could have definitely done better. And I can apologize personally for any harm that may have been communicated or may have been done on my part. And like I said, when I opened up this item, that certainly wasn't our intentions or my intention. I hope those who know me well, no matter where you land along the spectrum of being originated from the original land stewards, that you're familiar with my work and how I engage people. And my efforts for equity and inclusion, clearly, we didn't do as good a job as we could have done. What I'm about to do, and I think this is probably an effort to save council from making ourselves looking perhaps any foolish. I will say that perhaps this is within our best interest to not move this forward at all. We can certainly entertain at the end of the meeting to agendize setting up an actual and legitimate ad hoc that will be tasked with engaging the tribes appropriately and respectfully and intentionally. I think that is just the bare minimum, and that is what I would consider low-hanging fruit. How those relationships and interactions look will definitely, I think that goes in line with what the intention should be when refreshing the land acknowledgement. And as I said earlier when I opened up this item, that we are not the arbiters of indigeneity or sovereignty. And when I say we on the council, we don't get to determine who claims indigenous ancestry to these lands. And that's not up for us. But I do think there's an opportunity, potentially with an ad hoc, to be inclusive and be respectful and mindful of the different spaces and voices, that there is room to work with multiple folks and multiple entities, however that may look, in consultation with the tribes. I'll put a plug on there right now. I do want to give opportunity for council to give any of their piece here, but I will say, please tread lightly and please take to heart what I just said about let's not drive any further than what we've done.
Mayor, if I may, in the interest of avoiding any Brown Act issues, if we were to want to form an ad hoc committee, I would like to make a motion to table this item for a future agenda to be determined, and or for this to come, for us to form a ad hoc subcommittee for discussion.
Yes.
My concern being that if we, I'm looking to the legal, if we were to start to discuss this and then choose to form an ad hoc, that we might be inadvertently creating a Brown Act
Yep.
issue.
Which is why I say let's put a plug on it before any further discussion.
There are many things I would like to say, but I am cautious of the Brown Act issues.
Yeah. And I will defer to city staff and legal on that.
Yes, I would recommend not discussing an ad hoc committee as it's not been agendized at this point. And simply making a vote on the recommendation.
All right. I will look for a motion at this time.
Before you do that, I just also want to say that we started this process to be more inclusive, and obviously we didn't hit the mark. And I will speak for myself. I'm not going to speak for the mayor. He's already spoken. But I will say that I'm sorry that we didn't do a better job. And I hope that you'll forgive us and give us a chance to try to work through this and to make Albany the inclusive city that we talk about, but we're not quite there yet. And I hope you give us the grace to get there. Thank you.
I will entertain. Do we need to have a motion to? Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sorry, what? We need a motion.
To table.
Yeah, I would recommend not a motion to table because that implies that this is going to come back in the form that it is for consideration. I would recommend taking no action, in which case it basically passes into the ether essentially, and we can talk about whatever happens next.
Does that sound like an appropriate move?
Yes.
All right.
So is that do we take no action or do we make a motion to take no action? Sorry.
You don't have to make a motion to take no action.
Okay, then as your mayor, for item 11-2, we will be taking no action on this item, meaning it will not be moving forward. And again, I just want to say thank you for the public that has contributed. And thank you for those online who have participated as well. All right. Again, thank you for, I think public discourse is always a good thing. I just want to acknowledge that. And I appreciate folks and I appreciate council for also being open and receptive and listening. We can always strive to be better and do better. Thank you. With that said, we are at 9:45. Let's go ahead and take a quick 5-minute break. I think we've all earned it. All right, calling this meeting back at 9:50 p.m. For the most exciting item that everyone in the room has been waiting for. Item 11-3, Amendment Number 6 to the Employment Agreement for City Manager Services. Do we have any report from staff?
Good evening, Council. On January 22nd, 2018, the City Council adopted Resolution Number 2018-20, approving an employment agreement with the current city manager. Since then, the City Council has subsequently amended the agreement 5 times. On June 30th, 2025, the City Council conducted an annual performance review of the city manager and now desires to further amend the employment agreement to provide for an increase to the base salary. Staff's recommendation is for the City Council this evening to adopt Resolution Number 2025-56, approving Amendment Number 6 to the City Manager's Employment Agreement and accompanying updated salary schedule to incorporate the amendment.
All right, thank you very much. Do we have any questions from City Council? Not seeing any questions. Do we have any public comments? No public comments. Bringing it back to council for discussion. Do we have any discussion from council?
I'll move Resolution 2025-56.
Have a second?
Second.
All right, perfect. City Clerk?
Mayor Lopez,
Yep.
Councilmember Hanser Romero,
Yes.
Councilmember Jordan,
Yes.
Councilmember Mickey,
Yes.
and Vice Mayor McQuaid.
Yes.
The motion carried.
Thank you very much.
I would just like to offer thanks to the city manager for your continued service to the city.
Not all heroes wear capes. All right, moving on to item number 12, council subcommittee reports. And we'll start on this side of the dais with Councilmember Hanser Romero.
I unfortunately did not make the last meeting, so I have no updates at this point.
And there was a meeting of the PPLC of the Alameda County Transportation Commission, but I was unfortunately unable to attend. I have no other meetings to report.
Thank you. Councilmember Mickey?
I have no meetings to report.
All right. Vice Mayor McQuaid?
I attended a mayor's conference in San Leandro and coffee with the cops last week, I think it was. And I was also at the protest last Thursday evening.
Thank you, Vice Mayor McQuaid. I always do enjoy myself a good vice mayor that's active. I did have my AVA subcommittee meeting, more marketing, regulatory, legislative meeting. Most of it was just informational purposes. We were going over several bills that are coming down the pipeline right now at the state level. And we did have our general board meeting for AVA, as you heard earlier from the city manager report. We got a nice sizable $7.1 million, I believe, in rebates program for our e-bike rebate program. So I do hope folks check that out. Still working on seeing when we can identify opportunity for Giltrack Farm folks to meet up. And I believe we do have our police and fire pension fund board meeting tomorrow. And then I know I feel bad, I'm about to say this, cheating on my city. I was at the San Pablo Economic Development Corporation Business Mixer only because my best friend from high school was hosting it. Don't worry, I am not. I know my allegiances and I know my loyalties very well. But I will say, when I was there, and my friend had asked me to speak. I wasn't trying to speak. I was just there for free pizza with my chief of staff. And I had highlighted some of the big wins that we've been doing here in Albany and the level of support that we have for our businesses through business grants and such. I did not get one chance to eat any pizza or drink any water because everybody wanted to know what we're doing good in Albany. And they were so ecstatic to hear like all our wins and successes. And I just want to share that with everyone that a similar small city. And all the business leaders and local electeds over there were genuinely interested in what we've been able to accomplish. And I think a lot of that is owed to not just the decision-making that happens at the dais, but our city staff. And I think the previous item was quite fitting as a follow-up to me sharing this. With that said, that pretty much rounds out my activities. I will now move it to item, or do we have any public comments on council subcommittee report? All right. Moving on to item number 13, future agenda item. Do we have any proposed future agenda item?
Yeah, pursuant to earlier item this evening, I asked for the consideration of establishing an ad hoc committee to consider potential updates to the land acknowledgement.
All right. Thank you very much. Any other future agenda item? Any comments from the public for a future agenda item? Not seeing anyone in person. We will move on to item number 14, announcements of city meeting events. As I said earlier, our Police and Fire Pension Board Fund meeting is tomorrow. I know that's the most exciting meeting that the community is just dying to attend. I will be there live and in person. As well, just a heads up, we will be going on August recess, so unfortunately, folks may not see us, but hopefully we are accessible still. And with that said, before I go into adjournment, I do want to close this meeting in honor and in memory of someone near and dear to me. When we went through that earlier item of hearing about accountability and our responsibilities to listen to people and to be better, it made me think a lot about the person who I want to close out and acknowledge. Today, 5 years ago, around this time, unfortunately, I had lost my grandmother shortly after COVID-19 had hit. My grandmother, she was born Janet Wan in Tuolumne, and she had met my grandfather, Rogelio Moreno, at Oakdale High. And one of the last memories I have of her is her sharing her version of how they met. And her version included stealing his tacos during lunch, and that he had those cool little rolled up pants, and that he had gotten in a lot of trouble because he got one of his friends to get her phone number from the high school office. And I share that because my grandfather is still alive, and he had since moved from Richmond to Sonora, California, closer to his original stomping grounds. But I, again, want to acknowledge and honor this closing of the meeting in memory of my grandmother, because without realizing as a young person, she did teach me a lot about inclusivity, a lot about being a person of integrity. She, in the 60s, was very involved with the PTA, and I think the school was Stonehurst Elementary. She was involved with the PTA for De Anza High in Richmond, involved with the Cub Scouts and the Girl Scouts as well. But most importantly, something that gets on the line of inclusivity. She had started her own business called Big Stitches by Jan, and I always smile when I say it. But she started her own company that was very popular in the East Bay. It was geared towards people who needed swimsuits that couldn't find them that were, and oh, Peggy knows that. Yeah, she was very well known in the pool community.
Yes, I know that.
And so Big Stitches by Jan, she, without, again, realizing it as a young person, I'd always see her crafting and making different outfits and swimwear for people. And just thinking, like, my grandmother works hard, and I get away with a lot of things when she's stitching. But later on in life, realizing she opened up the doors for a lot of people to feel comfortable in their body when they would go to a pool. And I think many of us can agree, when you go to a pool, you don't always feel the most comfortable in your body sometimes. And so I just I want to acknowledge that as I'm highlighting her memory in this meeting and everything that she's accomplished in her life, and the dozens of grandchildren and great-grandchildren that she's left and impressed quite the legacy upon, grandchildren that live in different countries and different states, great-grandchildren that have gotten to explore the world when unfortunately she didn't. But most importantly, having a grandson that ended up becoming the first Latino mayor of Albany, California. That was probably the most longest-winded statement of closing and honoring someone, but I don't think any words can truly justify how amazing my grandmother's life was. And again, I'm happy that I'm able to say and share all of this without dropping a tear and it feeling overly emotional, because when I think of her, all I can do is smile and think about all those times whenever I'd post something on Facebook. Even though I had a caption, she would recaption it herself and call herself Graham, even though I never recall calling her Graham. She'd always say, "Love Graham," and I miss that. But again, 5 years ago on this day, the ancestors had a different plan, and she unfortunately did not come out of Oakland Kaiser Hospital. And I'm proud to say that, you know, I don't need to be sad about that, and neither does my family. We could be proud in the fact that we've gained one of the dopest ancestors. And again, as I close out this meeting, I do want to acknowledge my grandmother, maiden name Janet Wan, but lived as Janet Moreno. And with that said, I close this meeting at 10:02. Thank you.